What's good, DWA fam? This is Jared. Make sure you follow us on Instagram at DoneWithAdultingPod.
Back like we never left.
Yep, back like we never left.
We're back in the groove, back in the swing of things. Halfway vaccinated.
Yeah, halfway, almost there.
Almost there.
How much you got? You got Moderna?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know the I guess how effective it is for the first dose?
I thought it was like 50% or something. Or honestly, I don't know.
Because I looked up Pfizer. I think Pfizer's like 80%.
Yeah, 80%. Yeah.
So
Everybody wants Pfizer. Pfizer apparently is the better one, from what I'm reading. I have my second dose next week, and I am truly petrified because I am afraid of the side effects.
I heard if you stay hydrated, you're good. Just drink a bunch of water. You should be fine.
That is already a challenge for me on a day-to-day basis. So
we'll just do it the day before and then the day
of. So much is happening.
R.I.P. DMX.
That we need to talk about before we talk about what we're talking about today. DMX, that doesn't really seem real to me yet.
It just happened.
But
Still
seriously, RIP to a legend.
All of my goats, they're passing away. They're dying.
Everybody, like 2 or 3 people DM'd me from the Complex Instagram post of the Celtics game that showed your thing on the screen. And was like, is this Jared? And I was like, it is.
People that I know?
You've met them, but you don't know them like that.
Yeah. I remember that day. Me and the homie at the basketball game. They showed DMX. To me, he's top 5 dead or alive. So I was hyped. So they showed
top 5 dead or alive.
Playing this song, and me and the homie were up just dancing, singing, screaming. They put us on the big screen.
Who would be else in your top 5 dead or alive?
Jay-Z.
Okay. This is in no particular order.
Yeah, no particular order. Jay-Z, DMX. I guess I have to say Biggie and Tupac just because they changed the culture.
Mm-hmm.
And my 5th is Up in the Air.
This is just rap, right?
Yeah, just rap. What else were we about to say? Like,
I don't know. Well, I didn't know if we were just talking like music or like rap. But
not music.
That's a good top 5, and that would be similar to mine. My 5th person that I would put in there would be Nas.
Nas, okay, I can see that.
That's my.
I feel like I can't have Nas and Jay-Z in there.
Why? Because they had that one beef.
Well, no, I don't know why. But I just possibly because they just had because there was a huge beef that lasted for a while, and you were either Nas or you were either Jay-Z. I feel like you weren't both.
I was definitely both.
But the thing about that is I feel like with my top 5, at least those 4 names that I named, they're all kind of like 90s.
Well, yeah, 90s was a very pivotal time for hip-hop.
It was.
But culture.
I think I should have some people from a little bit beforehand. But
well, you could do top 5 low-key for each decade. I feel like every decade the tides change.
That's true.
In the game.
I mean, actually, I probably would have said Lil Wayne. Lil Wayne had a crazy run. Lil Wayne had a crazy run. But I mean, Drake is having a crazy run right now. So, I mean,
he would definitely be 21st century top 5.
Yeah. But yeah, so maybe Wayne is my top 5. That's my top 5, yeah.
That's your 5th, yeah.
That's my 5th is Wayne.
Well, there you go. Anyways, how did we get there?
But I remember, DMX. I remember.
Top 5 dead or alive.
I just remember growing up on DMX. I remember my mom playing him like all the time before my games.
Get you hyped up?
Yeah, I remember being with my dad, just riding around the town.
Yes.
Bumping DMX.
That's what we talked about when Chelsea came on our podcast and was talking about death.
Yeah.
And how like we mourn celebrities and we're really just like mourning our childhood memories.
And like listening to music, it takes you back to a certain point.
Yeah. Or like in a moment and you're like, oh, that shit was not fun.
Like DMX did that for me, you know what I mean? Like
facts.
Lil Wayne did that for me. Like high school. Yeah. Like those type of, and that's why they're in my top 5. You know, Jay-Z, the Black Album, like I remember being on the school bus going to middle school and listening to, he's like, you wouldn't bust a... Ooh, it had to be.
Had to be a Walkman.
Yeah, you wouldn't bust a grape in a fruit fight. Like,
That line was so hard when it came out.
Yeah. And it's funny though, because like looking back at CDs, like I used to buy. I used to have my mom buy these CDs just for me to like listen to one song.
Really? I would listen to the whole album. Chris Brown.
I would listen to the whole album, but then I only bought the CD because of that one song that was on the radio at that young age.
Oh no, I like to I'm a weirdo. If it was a good like if it was somebody I loved, normally you know how you could take the
pamphlet out?
The CD, and you could open it up and it would have the lyrics and stuff.
And all the pictures.
I had that thing spread out, reading the lyrics while the song was playing, like how they have it on Apple now, but paper version.
Yeah, an actual tangible item.
Yes, I loved that. And then this one album that Chris Brown came out with, I can't remember the name of it, but it was like in between two of his good ones. It came with a full life-size poster.
Oh yeah, I was about to say some of them got creative and were like, oh, let's make this a whole poster.
Yo, it was a life-size poster. I remember that was like somebody gave that to me as a gift, and it was like still clearly I remember it as one of the best things I've ever.
Yo, the 90s was lit. The 90s, early 2000s. We should have a 90s party. That is a phenomenal idea.
Once
we're all vaxxed.
A done with adulting 90s party.
That's dope.
2-year anniversary party?
Yeah. I mean, hopefully we're outside. COVID's gone.
Wow, wowee. That's lit.
Party, yeah.
Okay, plan it.
A lot of large clothing will be worn that day.
Oversized, oversized clothing. Also, we were just talking about the Duke, who was almost dead a few weeks ago, and unfortunately today, on the same day as DMX.
Oh yeah, it was today or was it yesterday?
I don't know. I think it probably was yesterday, but the palace didn't say anything till today. Or they released their statement today.
I mean, I don't know much about that man. R.I.P. to him, though.
Right before this, you were like, wait, what's his name? Prince William? I'm like, that's the son. No, that's
I was like, Prince Harry? I was like, oh no. That's Meghan Markle's, right?
He was 99.
Yeah. They say they were married for 7+ decades.
Imagine.
That's crazy.
I can't even think about the concept of that much time. No. Like living for that much time.
70 years?
99 years.
I'm talking about the marriage.
The marriage for 70 years.
Is crazy to me, bro.
But like, honestly, they had, even if they literally hated each other's guts, which they didn't, but even if they did, they would have never been able to not be married because
that's how the family works, right?
Yeah, the monarchy and the Catholic Church and whatever. So
that's wild. And you got to think about it. Like back then, they were getting married even younger than people are getting married today. Like super young.
Right. That's probably, well, if he was 99, they were married for 70 years.
No, so this is more than 70 years.
All right. Well, yeah, so they got married when they were like, I think, according to the show on Netflix, I think they were in their early 20s.
The Crown?
Mid-20s. Yeah, The Crown. So.
Yeah, I think Emily watches that. Well, she definitely watches it. I've come home multiple times and seen it on the screen and just like rolled my eyes.
We're on the, I guess the 4th season just came out this year, like a couple months ago maybe. And so we weren't watching it live though. Like we had to start from the beginning. So we're about to end season 3 and then go to season 4.
So does the show make them look better or makes them look worse, in your opinion?
It makes it look exactly what I expected it to be. Just nonsense. There are some things that I'm like, what? They did that? And the crazy part about the show,
they were terrible human beings.
Well, the brother, Queen Elizabeth's father, who was the king before she was the queen, obviously, he wasn't supposed to be the king. His older brother was supposed to be the king, but I'm not going to be able to think of the word, but I think it's like abdicated or something. Is that a word?
I don't even know what that is.
All right, Google it.
I was going to say, did he kill him?
No, he just fell in love with somebody who wasn't down for the crown, or I don't know what the freaking the issue was. I forget. But essentially he stepped down. Like he was like, I don't want to be king. And that's how Elizabeth's father became king. And then in turn, Elizabeth had to become queen. Gotcha. So she wasn't even supposed to be in line. But that guy, the older guy, the reason I bring that up, why did I bring that up? What was I saying? I was basically just saying he was the guy who, he was the person in the family who was involved with Hitler. Which they didn't find out till way later that he was involved with Hitler. But the crazy thing about the show is that at the end of that episode, when they're talking about that, they show like the actual pictures of the dude and Hitler like walking together and fucking looking at the Nazis. And I was like, oh shit, like
terrible.
This is bad. So anyways, the other thing that's happening that I wanted to quickly address before we talk about boundaries today is the Derek Chauvin homicide trial.
Yeah, make sure y'all
stop calling it the George Floyd trial.
Well, yeah, make sure you do that, and also make sure you keep your eyes and your ears pinned to that. Just don't take I don't know. Don't take. I was going to say don't take your knee off of it, but
that seems inappropriate.
Yeah, I shouldn't say that. Should not say that.
Stop! I should not have laughed at that.
Keep your the foot on the pedal.
Keep the foot on the pedal. So they said that the trial is probably going to last like a month,
which I don't know why, but hey.
You know, that's just how our justice system works.
I do know that all the cops and the chiefs that that have testified have all thrown him under the bus. So,
and I feel like, well, first of all, I also just want to say, if you're a black person, just proceed with caution.
Yeah, we already know what we expect.
Well, I also just think like to hear the stories being retold and to see the witnesses like getting upset, it's very like re-traumatizing. So that's just like a disclaimer for like if you're sensitive or like that was just like a very emotional. The whole thing is fucked, but I say all that to say it can be like re-triggering, especially for black people. So like
some of the witnesses though, they've been holding it down.
Yes, and I'm basically just like
real ones.
You know what's so weird is like I feel. Well, how do you feel
about what this whole thing?
Like, what do you think's gonna happen? Like, do you think he's gonna get?
So convicted? I honestly think that he will be convicted, but like I know the history. And I don't get
your hopes up.
Yeah, my hopes up. Like
because we've thought this before.
Yeah, like there's been other cases where I'm like, oh, this is a clear cut. It's a wrap for that person, and then they get off. So I expect him to actually get charged, but I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't. I would not like. It would not shock me one bit. Like the smallest bit of shock would not be in my body at all. Yeah.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't be shocked. I feel differently about this in the sense of like what the witnesses are saying, you know, really holding it down. The police, like I guess I've never experienced like so many of a police officer's peers testifying against themselves. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And that's why I believe.
Yes. And so that's why I'm like, okay, maybe we have some hope with this. But at the same time, to your point, if he doesn't get convicted, I won't be surprised, but it'll be some shit.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you already know what will happen. Like, people are going to take to the streets. There's going to be peaceful protests. And then as soon as the sun drops, it's going to get out of hand. And there's going to be a cycle of things we've seen in the past.
It's amazing, though. Like, I've been watching it on and off. Sometimes I watch it live. Sometimes I catch the rerun or, like, read the news that day of what happened with it. But it's so fucking disgusting to me and also like petty, but like that's how our justice system works. Like Chauvin's lawyer is like just the questions he asks and the things he's trying to imply and like trying to prove he didn't die from suffocation, he died from drugs. I mean, it's just like
that's what he has to do.
It's exactly which sickens me though. That is like the sickening part to me.
I know prosecutors, they get a bad rap. Like, for some reason, that's like a new thing. Everybody wants to hate a prosecutor, but I mean, like, that's their job.
It's their job, but like...
That's their job. Like, they have to do this.
I can understand being a prosecutor if you're defending people who are not guilty. But how can you just, in good faith...
Job. Like, that's their job. Is
defend
try to get them
a guilty person.
That's their job. That's what they're paid to do. I mean, you could say the same thing about, like, corrections officers. Like, they're paid to have people in jail and watch them. And treat them kind of inhumanely.
No, they're not paid to treat them inhumanely. They choose to do that. You can be a corrections officer and be a nice fucking person.
My mom was a correction officer for 25 years.
Yeah, she didn't inhumanely treat anybody, but she witnessed it. I mean, but did she do it?
She possibly could have. I don't know. I mean, she's not going to tell me the worst of the worst.
I need to get her on here.
But I know some. I know some people who do that. You know what I mean? Who are?
We need a mom's Done with Adulting featuring.
No, you texted me this and I said
mothers.
Absolutely no, absolutely not.
Miss Gaines, if you're listening to this,
Jesus,
this is your formal invite on the podcast.
That would be that actually kind of be funny.
I know she listens.
No, she doesn't. She always asks me how does she. She has a droid, so it's a little tougher for her.
Droid, Spotify.
Yeah, she doesn't download Spotify.
Oh, well, I hope she hears this somehow. Okay, so that the trial's happening, which once it is over and there's a result and we can process it and digest it as, Black people.
So even if he does get convicted, what do you think? Do you think that's going to change anything of how cops?
I mean, it's a win because a murderer gets actually
for sure
convicted. But I mean, no, it's honestly, it's a step in the right direction, but everything is a step. Everything that we're doing every day is like
a step. It might even be smaller than a step.
It's a step, but like every time we take a step, it's like 3 steps back when stuff like this happens. So it's not that we're not taking steps. It's just like we have to go backwards so much because people just
systemic
want to be racist. So that's a thing that's happening. But once it's all said and done, we'll do a full episode.
I mean, hopefully
all that noise.
Hopefully it'll be a good one.
Hopefully it'll be a celebration of a convicted murderer.
Yeah.
So anyways, what are we talking about today?
Boundaries and boundary setting. And honestly, I don't even know what that means because I don't think Black people were born with boundaries. I don't think that was something that was taught about in Black people's youth.
Definitely
Was it
not.
yours?
No.
It wasn't mine.
It's like the opposite. It's like there are no boundaries here.
Not
that explicitly, but
yeah, you listen to your parents and that's it. Like there's no like if they like boundaries, like
I mean, as a kid, it's hard to have boundaries as a kid. Like I'm talking about, we're talking about I mean, sure,
you have to knock before you come into my room. What? You imagine if I told my mom you got to knock before you come into my room?
I mean, sure, kids can have boundaries. I guess I see your point. But like, if you had to, you said you don't really know what boundaries are. So like, in your adult life, without looking up what boundaries are, what would you like guess? Or what would you think off the top of your head if someone was like, do you have boundaries?
I would be like, is it like certain things that you would not allow friends or family to do to you or your family?
Okay.
And there's some sort of restriction for them like allowing that to happen.
Okay, good job. That reminds me of the guy.
Oh yeah.
Are you smart? What does boundaries mean?
So what are boundaries for you?
I'm like, okay, good job.
I also think it's misleading in a way, but we'll get to that.
Why?
I don't know. It just like it kind of conveys that you're just, I don't know, separate from somebody or just not a part of something. I don't know.
Sure. No, I get that. This is something that I feel so strongly about, mostly in the past, 6 months.
I was about to say something new.
Honestly, I think when we think about boundaries, it sounds like the reason people are hesitant or shy away from it is because it does sound so rigid and I don't want to be around you type of thing. When in reality, it can be that, but I think there's also more to it. I have an article too that I was reading about this that I'll post in our show notes that has a ton of great information. It's the No BS Guide to Setting Boundaries.
Well, what's your definition of it?
My definition of it is off the top of my head, my definition is speaking up for yourself if, you don't want to do something, instead of just being okay, feeling obligated to do things you don't want to do, actually saying no thanks. Sometimes we say yes to things because it's family or because it's a good friend.
Is that consistent or is it sporadic? One time it's okay, the other time it isn't?
I think that's up to the person setting the boundaries. And so, like, for me, I think it comes in different forms. Sometimes I even set boundaries for, like, my own self. Like, I need to set boundaries between me and my cell phone. So, like, my boundary is in the morning when I open my eyes, I don't pick it up until I've went to the restroom, washed, you know what I mean? Like, done everything I need to do to get ready.
I guess I'm looking at it too much of, like, black and white.
Yeah, I think there's definitely different types of boundaries. I mean, this article is saying we can set boundaries for our personal space, emotions, thoughts, possessions, time, and energy. That's a huge one. Culture, religion, and ethics. And so I think, like, the point of it is obviously self-care and self-preservation.
Yeah.
But also I just think it's healthy. Like, I think when you have boundaries within relationships or friendships or even family relationships, it's like, it's almost like being proactive. Like, I'm going to set this boundary now so that you don't piss me off to the point that this is unrepairable.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
But I kind of think that those kind of work their way in naturally versus a person just saying, like, we need to set boundaries.
Well, yes.
At least for men, let me say that. At least for men and my friends. I feel like those things happen, like, naturally, so we don't have to go out of our way to actually say, oh, this is a boundary.
Well, you don't have to go out of your way to say this is a boundary that explicitly about anything. You could set a boundary, like, if you and Emily are like, on this day of the week, this is our day, this is what we're committing to as husband and wife. As the external world doesn't exist, we're focusing on us. You don't have to say to someone, hey, when someone says, hey, do you want to hang out on Saturday? You know that's your day with Emily. You don't have to say, sorry, my boundary is up. You just are like, no, thank you. You're honoring the boundary that you set by preserving that day for you and your partner.
Yeah, and then there's, like, a routine, so...
Yeah, but you don't necessarily have to say to the person you're rejecting, like, sorry, this is... You're stepping over my boundaries. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It can be something that you set that is internal, that you honor. The point is, like, whatever boundaries you set for yourself, whether it's around time, energy, people, whatever it is, emotional stuff, it's for you and you only. And the only way that it's effective is if you stick to it, to yourself. I mean, like, I feel like this goes along with the theme of, like, we always make promises to people and obligations. Like, if we made an obligation to someone else, we would follow through, but we always break obligations to ourselves. Like, we're the last people that we, break promises to. You know what I'm saying? So, or we're the first people we break promises with. And so setting boundaries is practice in self-care in a way that's like, I'm doing this for me and I'm going to stick to it and be consistent with it, even if that means separating myself from whatever it is that I'm separating.
Yeah, so growing up, did you have boundaries?
No, I literally just found out about boundaries and, like, healthy boundaries this year. I mean, like, I think we all do them in some sense. Like, at some point we say no to things or whatever, but not in this, like, formal way of, like, thinking about what are my boundaries, like that.
We should have had, like, I feel like we should have had a white person on for this episode to ask them. Because I feel like they had boundaries growing up.
Like what? Knock before you come in my room?
Yeah, just like other things like that.
Like what?
I mean, everything that we did.
Everything we didn't have.
Not even everything we didn't have, but just, like, I don't know.
I think another good example might be, like, when we were in high school or in middle school and your parents are, like, ask you a question, like, we would never respond and be like, that's none of your business.
Never in life.
But that is something I have witnessed, like,
that's wild.
Somebody saying to their parents, like, it's not your business. It's my business.
High school or at a young age?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's crazy. But I do kind of see it, like, as I get older, like, I kind of see those boundaries. Like I said, I think it's happened, like, naturally. Like, I'm put in a situation that I don't like, and then I make it known that I don't like that situation, and it's not going to be the same as it was in the past. Like, for example, like growing up, I obviously always listened to my mom, and her opinion always mattered. And if she gave me an opinion on something, or if she wanted me to do something, I would do it. But taking it back to my wedding, there's a lot of things that she wanted me to do. And I was like, no, we're not doing that.
That's a boundary.
So, but I'm thinking like, to me, that's happening like naturally versus me proactively forcing or putting that there. But that's just like learning still and with growth, I guess.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think sometimes it does happen naturally, but I think as we get older and become more self-aware and all that stuff, it's beneficial. Like if you were to sit down and say like, what are the things, like take inventory of like, what are the things that like get you from 0 to 100? Like what are the things that are stressing you out? Is it that you have no time? Is it that you have no relaxation time? Is it that you have people who piss you off? Like what is it that gets you there? And then how can I set a boundary that is going to prevent me from getting there? So maybe that's like I'm even thinking with family. This is such a big one because in my family specifically, me and my cousin talk about this all the time. There's like 0 boundaries. It's like, there's just none. There's just no boundaries. And now that I'm getting...
That's a cultural thing though.
I mean, I think it is. And it does say like people set boundaries based on how they grew up in their culture and stuff like that. But my whole thing is like me as an adult and taking control of my boundaries and my self-care to me is saying to a family member, like, no, thank you, or please do not, or I don't, you know what I mean? As opposed to like when I was younger, I would just be like, this is just how my family is. Like, I'm thinking of a specific.
You don't want to get into it?
Well, no.
They listen?
They don't listen. But there's like a okay, so this is a good example. There's like a specific family member who I live at my mom's house right now. Obviously, I think people know who comes. And my mom's, this is a perfect example. My mother's house where I grew up is like open door policy, as you've experienced. In and out, people come, they go, they live here, they pop in, no warning. Like that is something that stresses me out. And when I buy my house, that's going to be like a very strong boundary that I set. Like, please don't pop up at my front door. Like, call
let me know.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, yes. Boundary.
But
okay,
that
now I'm getting you. Because I agree with that. If I'm home, do not just pop up. You need to let me know that you're on the way or something.
Are you on the way? Are you there? Yes, but that's a culture that my mom has. She doesn't mind that. She doesn't. And even like, because we have the pool and stuff, like her general rule is like, even when I'm not here, like feel free to go in the pool and like do all these things, which for her, it's like family is family. I trust them. I feel comfortable. And it's not that I don't trust my family or don't feel comfortable. It's a boundary. And I don't think that I should have to explain that, but
you shouldn't. Yeah. No.
But yeah, that's the challenging thing about keeping your boundaries is that when you try to enforce them. So like in this situation, the reason I brought this up was because we have a family member who stops by a lot. And you know who it is. He dances on the tables. The picnic tables.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so that family member.
I've been to a lot of Asian families' parties, so I know.
So he stops by a lot, and sometimes whenever anybody stops by my house, there's alcohol involved because that's just a part of my family culture, and people get a little too tipsy.
They get lit.
Which is fine. I'm just trying to have a good time.
They're comfortable.
Not a bad intention. But when this particular family member gets drunk, he has, we call it his Gemini tendencies.
Damn, he's a Gemini. I'm a Gemini.
I know, but you don't really, I mean, I think you have this tendency. I just have I've only seen it like once. But he will go from like 0 to 100. Like he's fine, he's happy. And then like something ticks him off or is like his partner ticks him off and he snaps. Like,
when did you see me get to that? We'll talk about this offline.
I think it was at a bar. But you were like wasted. I just think you were just like, whatever. So he snaps. And so one time he snapped here and like couldn't control himself. Like he literally he was drinking wine and took his wine glass and like smashed it and broke it like on the cement. And I literally was like, I literally want to be like, get the fuck out of my house.
That's normal family problems.
I know, but like, so to me, when that happened, I was so just like, how dare you? Yeah, or not even how dare you, but just like, you're a grown man. Like, please regulate your emotions. Yeah. Like, you don't even live here. And so after that, I told my mom, I was like, I mean, I love Uncle whatever, but when I get my house, like,
He's not just...
No, like, oh, I'll see him here at this house. Like, I don't know if I'm going to be like, hey, come on over, sir.
We're not
like,
having a housewarming.
Because he stresses me out. As soon as he starts drinking, I get stressed. So, and she was like, that's rude. Like, family is family. And I'm like, no, that's a boundary that I'm setting that I think is healthy. And my mom, like, cannot conceptualize that.
Of course, because there's boundaries in the Black family, Black household isn't a thing. But I guess we kind of did grow up with boundaries because there were certain boundaries that our parents set that we couldn't break, I feel like. At least for me, like, I shouldn't be going to my mom's purse. That's a boundary, right?
I mean, I just think that's like a rule.
Yeah, but rules are kind of boundaries.
Yeah, I guess.
So then I learned that over time, like, you shouldn't really be going to any woman's purse.
Well, yeah, it's their private space, but like, I don't know. I feel like, I mean, I guess that counts. It counts.
So what about, I think time also, like if you're not respecting the person's time, like say if I show up, say we always have like say if I'm always coming over and I'm like, I have to leave at this point. Mm-hmm. Like I have another obligation that I need to get to. I need to leave. So say if it's a Saturday, I get here at 3 p.m. Mm-hmm. I need to leave by 6 to go somewhere. You're like, okay, let's have an early dinner. You put the dinner out at 5:30. Mm-hmm. Like, that's not respecting my time, which is breaking my boundary. And I try to set that every single time I come to you.
Yeah, which
is that similar or no?
Well, yes. In that situation, though, right? If that happened, you'd be like, I said I have to leave at this time, so now I'm leaving and I can't eat with you. And me as a person, if I didn't understand what boundaries were, I'd be like, what the fuck? I just made you this whole dinner. Like, you're going to sit down and eat it. But
sometimes it's hard to do that.
Exactly. And it's hard to... Inevitably, people aren't going to understand. Like, not everybody in the world is trying to like be mindful and like set boundaries and like be emotionally whatever. Like, this is work people have to do to understand what that means. So if you're talking to somebody who has no boundaries or no interest in learning about boundaries or respecting boundaries, then yeah, that's a hard conversation to have. Maybe it's an argument. Maybe it's a whole, you're not speaking to them for a minute, but as the person who set the boundaries, you have to be enforcing them, but also be able to accept that there might be consequences of it.
Yeah, you got to stand on it.
Yes.
You have to stand on it. So I guess I'm not looking at them as boundaries. I'm looking at them as kind of like rules or policies, which probably isn't the right way to look at it, but...
Yeah, that seems so like organizational.
Yeah, like professional kind of.
Yeah.
So when we finally pop out our baby, I don't want...
Only one person is popping out the baby.
Okay.
You did help make it, but only one person is giving birth.
Okay. You're right. I'm not going through that pain. When Emily finally pops out the baby and we're around family, I do not want, I don't know if I told her this. Well, actually, no, we definitely spoke about this. Mm-hmm. I don't want anybody like kissing the baby on the lips.
Yeah, that's weird to me.
Yeah. So I guess that's a boundary, right?
1000%.
Yeah.
But especially, it's a boundary specifically for people who would do something like that, which would be family. I hope not people who aren't family.
Bro, nah, F that. Yeah. The F?
I mean, like, some people consider their close friends to be family. I don't know. I'm just saying.
I mean, yeah. Yeah, true. That makes sense. But you like the uncles, the aunts. You'll be an auntie.
So listen to this. In the article, it says, like, it is important in setting boundaries to identify your basic human rights. Here are some examples. I have a right to say no without feeling guilty. I have a right to be treated with respect. I have a right to make my needs as important as others. I have a right to be accepting of my mistakes and failures. I have a right to meet others. I have a right not to meet others' unreasonable expectations of me. And kind of setting those as the base. And that's what I feel like is the hard part, because as humans, I feel like we're programmed and taught, like, don't be selfish, take care of others, do this for other people first. Like, we're not really
especially
raised.
Family.
Yeah. And we're not really raised to be like, fill up your cup first. Like, that's something I'm learning about in my adult life. So to think about those things, like, I have a right to do this, I have a right to do that. For some people, I feel like it can feel like kind of, I don't know how to explain it besides like gross. Like, you don't want to be that explicit. Like, you don't, it's hard. It's hard to say, like,
just
I
be
have
as direct as possible.
Yeah. And just like.
Yeah, because you're worried about the other person's emotions.
Exactly.
But I mean, at a certain point, if you're pushed to a certain brink, you're gonna be like, this is what it is, and this is what I need you to do, or this relationship isn't gonna last, or there's gonna be some issues within this relationship.
Yeah, you know what else they say on here that I've been seeing on Instagram a lot lately, which I love, is no is a complete sentence. Just the word no.
Yeah, because some people could take that offensively if you just say no and that's it.
Exactly. They're like, well, why?
Like if you're texting somebody and they just say no, like you'll be like, oh, do they have an issue? Do they have a problem or something? Like if like no, blah blah blah, but it's just no. Like it comes off kind of not aggressive, but confrontational. Yeah,
or just like you don't care.
Yeah.
When it's not the case, where it could be like sometimes you just like no, you just don't want to do it. It's like you say no, and then someone's like, oh, why? And you're just like, because I don't want to. And they're like, that's weird.
I do that all the time, I think. Yeah.
I do that all the time, too.
Like, oh, yeah, it is what it is. Like, I don't want to, no.
I think I struggle with it probably more than you do because I like to help people do things. I have a problem with like saying yes to too much at once. But I'm trying to learn how to say no more. Yeah. So it's just a work in progress, I guess. I was thinking, though, that a place where I've mastered saying no is at work. And I don't know if it's because...
Yeah. It's easier because it's professional.
I think some people would argue that it's harder for them, though, because you're so worried about, like, your performance and what your coworkers think.
Yeah, but you also have to set, like, realistic boundaries. Like, if it's something against your job function, then, like, obviously...
No, I'm not doing that.
But here's an example for me, at least. Like, ever since we've been at home, like, we're on Slack and these G chats and whatnot, and for some reason, people want to start sending G chats at like 6:30 in the morning, 7 o'clock in the morning. Like, when we were in the office, you weren't doing this.
Yeah, that's a no.
So why are you doing this now? And it happens to me every single day, and I'm like, I've been saying the whole time we've been home, like, I need to say something, but I haven't.
Okay, well, here's a great example and exercise. How is that even coming through? Like, your boundary should be don't turn on your work phone until the workday starts. That's your boundary.
Yeah, but with my job, I need to be on kind of call like 24/7, so I have to have it on. And I kind of have like a weird thing about turning my phones off and like not having access, like people not having access to me because...
You're afraid something's going to happen.
Yeah. Well, the last time that I did that, Henry passed away and people were calling me nonstop and...
Your phone was off?
Yeah.
Oh, you have PTSD from that.
And I haven't... PTSD?
Yeah, an event caused you to feel fear about doing that again.
I mean, it's not fear. It's just like I don't like...
Oh, sure. It's obviously not full-blown PTSD.
I get you. But yeah, so, I mean, I was at school at the summer. For some reason, I told myself not to turn it off. Like, this happens to me all the time. I tell myself not to do something. I do it, and then it comes back to bite me. But I told myself not to turn it off. I turn it off, and then people were calling me that whole night where I'm sleeping. But obviously, my phone's off, and my roommate, he got a call, and it woke me up, and that's how I found out.
Okay, so
I have a
alternative solution. Yeah. Even though your phone has to be on for work, if something happened, they would call you. They wouldn't Slack you about it. So can you turn off your Slack notifications?
Well, yeah, I'm not saying like it bothers me that the notification comes through because I'm not answering it until I get to it. You know what I mean? So like if I see it at 6:30, I'm not answering it until whenever I want to get to it. Like if you send something, I'm just like, why are you doing this though? Like it's not the notification that gets me. It's just like, why are you doing this in general? Like if we were in the office, you wouldn't be doing this. And it's nothing even like
important,
pertinent. Yeah, I'm like, it's not nonsense. Jesus Christ.
So, by the way, I just started using Slack at my new job. We didn't use Slack at my old job. We used Skype. This is my first Slack experience.
You Skype
Yeah, they have like people? Messenger on Skype. Yeah.
That sounds miserable.
It was terrible. It was like unreliable.
I didn't know that was the thing.
Yeah, Skype. It's like called Skype for Business or something, and you can message.
Yeah, we just got it because our company just acquired Slack, so they forced us to use it.
They did?
Yeah.
I feel like Salesforce acquires everybody.
That's what the company's growing stupid. But, I didn't like it at first, but yeah, I like it now. But yeah, that's a boundary that I need to set with my team and the people that I work with. Like, hey, you need to stop this because this is ridiculous.
Oh my God. That's true though. I mean, my boundary for example, my main work boundary, especially working from home, this is something I've really had to get better at. But my boundary is unless something is like time sensitive, I have to get it done. If it can wait, my hours are 9 to 5. Not before that and not after that.
Speak on it.
So unless it's something time sensitive that someone's looking for from me, that whatever, sometimes I have time sensitive things I have to do, fine. I'll work till 6. However, it has to be like, somebody explicitly was like, can you get this done before tomorrow? Because in my mind, everything can wait till tomorrow. In my mind, especially in the work that I do, it's not, nothing is that important that you need it in the next 45 minutes. You can wait till tomorrow. So my boundary working from home is like, I do not open my work computer until 8:55 so that I'm logged on by 9. And at 5:05, it is closed. No questions asked, no negotiations. It's just...
And you don't have a work phone either, so nobody can just hit you up and you still be on that or anything.
No, and I don't get work notifications to my phone. Turned them off. And so my boss and I are close. So if she needed something, actually, she would just text me.
Yeah, but like she has your number, yeah.
My whole thing is just like, why? And also, if I have so much work that I have to work past my 8 hours, like I have too much work. And if you're mad that I'm not getting all this work done, then you need to hire another person. This is not a one-person job. Or you need to pay me overtime.
Yeah, I guess in the work, like in work, I do set boundaries now that I'm thinking about it.
That's what I'm saying. We do it.
Like we do it. I just don't call them boundaries, so.
Well, they are.
Yeah. Like this literally just happened the other day. There's this person on my team. She, like every time we're on an email together and like I need to answer to it, like, number one, I don't report to her. She, like, I'm above her, number one. This makes me even more mad. But every time we're on an email together and, like, 10 minutes go by and I haven't responded to the email, she'll ping me and be like, hey.
Have you seen my email?
No, it's not even from her. It's like somebody else emailed us. Can you answer this? I'm like, the first couple times it happened, I was like, okay, let me not just say anything. I'm like, yeah. Literally, like, she did it literally this week. I'm like, hey. I see every single email that comes into my mailbox. I get to the email when I get to the email. I do not need you to let me know that an email came through because I see it.
I'm pretty sure.
And she was like, oh, you're right. I'm sorry. I was just blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no, stop doing that, mother flipper. Like that show was irritating me.
Oh my God!
Now she knows, and I know for a fact because I know she's a good person, and like she listens.
She didn't mean any harm, but like
but I don't think she's not gonna do it again. At least not to me. She did it today. She actually did it today to somebody else. But yeah, she's not gonna do that to me anymore.
I just feel like we do it at work. Yeah, it's hard to do it at home, but I also want to just talk about one other thing too, because all the boundaries we've talked about so far have been like. Not physical, like either space, time, emotional, whatever.
Okay, so yeah, what's physical about it? Let me know.
I feel like...
What do you have in mind about a physical one?
A perfect example is like this whole like... how we always talk about that we love the 6 feet social distance things, even though people don't understand what 6 feet is. That sometimes people really have boundaries that are like physical in terms of like, please don't come within this...
Don't be too close to me.
Exactly. Which I feel like is normal. And I definitely have that. And I almost...
You think that's harder to, I guess, not enforce, but put in place?
For sure.
You think so?
Yeah. And you know what? The reason I brought it up too is because on this article that I'm going to post, it says watch, like, how can you be aware of like other people's boundaries? And it says watch for cues. And it's like possible hints that someone might want more space. Avoiding eye contact, backing up. Like, backing up reminds me of, like, you know when people, like, when you're at the airport and someone's right on your neck and you move up a little bit.
And then they move.
And then they just move up and you're just like.
I turn around and I look at them.
I did that. Did I tell this story on here when I traveled and the guy was literally breathing down my neck? Nah. I went to Logan freaking Airport.
That's when you went to Florida?
Yes, bro. First of all, Logan Airport, there is no 6 feet enforcing.
Okay, I'm about to be there Wednesday, so let me know.
Zero enforcement of 6 feet. I was enforcing it myself as my own personal boundary because I didn't want strangers to be breathing down my neck. We had masks on, but still. So I'm at the security line And you know how you give your thing and then they go, okay, step right there and get in the security line. So the security line was the guy who had just showed his ID was right next to the lady. Like the line was backed up to the lady's little post.
And they kept trying to force people through.
Well, she goes, you can step up now. So I'm like, God, I hope this guy is like moved up by the time she's done with me. So she finishes, checks my thing, and she's like, okay, please step right there. And I literally was like, where? And she was like, right there. And I was like, he's right there. And she was like, okay, you can wait a minute. But she was getting annoyed because the line was long and she wanted the next person to come. And I was like, I'm not moving until this dude moves up. So he moves up like 4 inches. And she's like, okay, can you please step right there? And I'm like, fine. So I step right there. He's probably
you already
like,
know your face.
Bruh, I'm pissed. And you know why I'm also pissed? Because this is going to sound terrible, but I have TSA pre-check and...
They were not doing it?
Bruh, no. I didn't have it this day because I fucking changed my name.
Oh, yeah.
And I didn't tell TSA pre-check because I forgot that
That's going to be a long process, I think.
It's a 45-day thing.
Yeah.
So I get to the airport ready. I didn't even wear my easy takeoff shoes or anything like that. And now I'm in the line with the peasants who don't have TSA pre-check.
The peasants, she says.
So I'm like already pissed about that. So he moves up. He's probably like a foot in front of me and I'm a foot behind him. So finally the line moves and he moves up. So he's like 4 feet away from me. And I just stood still because I was like, bet, now we got 6 feet of distance. And the lady's like, ma'am, can you please move up? And I was like, no, thank you. So the guy behind me who she took after me, he's right there. I mean, this man might as well just get on my back like a piggyback. And he was frazzled. He's taking his mask down. He's sweaty.
Oh, heck no.
He's like...
Why is he taking his mask down for?
Well, you have to take it down so they can see your ID. They say, take your mask down, and then you put it back up.
Oh, you were still like right in front of the lady pretty much. Yeah.
So he takes it down and forgot to put it back up by the time he came by my thing. So I turn around and look at him and he's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Let me put my mask back up. And I'm like, it's okay. And then he's like, I know. He's like, they're not really enforcing the 6 feet thing, are they? And I was like, no, they're not.
Oh,
so
yeah, so he was frazzled, yeah.
Well, so in my head, I'm like, okay, you get it. You agree. Yeah. No, in my head, I'm like, you agree that we should be enforcing the 6 feet. I'm like, bet, me and this guy are on the same page. So finally, there's enough space for me to move up in the line, but I can still have 6 feet from the person in front of me. And I'm like, dude behind me's hip, so there. He's going to stay. Yeah. This man right behind me.
That because he was scared. He was anxious about the
I literally was like, I turn around and look at him again. He's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, it's fine. But I'm really like, honestly about, like, I want to rip my skin off. I'm just so uncomfortable.
Also, to play devil's advocate, so you're upset about that, but then you get on the plane where
I got on the plane, yeah,
where it's probably a full plane. You're next to some random
completely
people anyway.
Full. Yeah, I was in the middle seat. But I can't avoid that. Like, sure, I could have avoided it in line. Point is, physical boundaries. That's what I thought about when someone said backing up, is like when I'm too, especially in the pandemic, when someone's too close to me, I will blatantly either move out of the way or move up or move to the side to keep my space. And I feel like people look at me like I'm rude and I'm just like, this is a panorama. Like, please back it up.
But I feel like those are easy. Like, those are easier boundaries.
Yeah, physical boundaries are easy
but then again, a lot of people can't read like nonverbal cues, which is the issue.
Exactly.
Which is kind of crazy, but hey, that's where we're at in the world.
Anyways, so just to wrap us up, this honestly just says like boundaries are here to help us, and I think it's something that takes practice, right? Like,
we're still learning. Like,
exactly.
Literally, we were on a podcast 2 weeks ago, and
yeah, we're going to release it.
Yeah, you're going to hear it maybe next week, so it might be repetitive. But she was like, oh, like, what kind of boundaries do you set, and how do you feel? And I'm like, we're both like, boundaries?
Huh? What are those?
What are you talking about? Like, we didn't grow up with no boundaries. But
what are those?
What are those? That's hilarious. Yeah.
So, yeah.
They are important. Now, like, now that actually, like,
and then imagine when you have a kid.
Yeah, and that's where that's when a lot of the boundary setting is going to be. Yeah. And now, like, as you're saying that, I'm thinking of it of like being with family now, and like my sister-in-law, my brother-in-law, like their boundaries they set with their kids, they put it out there.
Like what?
Like they're not traveling a certain distance because the kids need to be in bed at a certain time or blah blah blah. And for the most part, I mean, they've stuck to it. There are times when I guess it gets broken every now and then, but
you know what's going to be another big boundary that I feel like is a challenge, which is going to be a big challenge for me. But when you have a kid and then like your family's providing you parenting advice, we talked about this, like setting boundaries in terms of like what you're going to allow people to say or not say to you about your child.
Yeah.
And that's really hard with family. And it's especially hard with the people who raised you, because they did raise a person and you know they know what they're doing, but you might not want to do things exactly the same way. So now you have to enforce a boundary that says, I respect your advice and opinion, but I'm going to go a different route with this. And that is really, really hard, I feel like.
Yeah. And I can see that like happening with my mom. Like I said, like I already gave the example about the wedding. But I can see that happening with parenting and things like that as well. But I think like now, she's also seeing that, like the boundaries that I'm putting. I don't want to call them boundaries, but
they are.
Yeah, I guess they are.
Just
boundaries.
call them
like,
what they are. It's fine. They're not bad. That's another thing.
Yeah.
We put this negative connotation on boundaries. Boundaries are there so that we can preserve ourselves, so that we can show up as our best selves to the people that we love.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. So yeah, it's not a bad thing. Not a bad thing at all. Embrace them. Embrace the boundaries. Set the boundaries.
Set them.
Better health all around.
Sometimes you gotta have boundaries with your partner. Like, please do not talk to me before 10 a.m. Just kidding. I'm just saying, there's boundaries even in marriage.
Facts. But I think those also just come about naturally. I feel like at times, the closer you are to an individual, the more natural they come, or no?
Well, it's just like you're more vulnerable with them, so you feel safe being able to say, like, no
disclose,
thanks. Yeah. Because that's your safe space. All the things. Look at us.
What was that? What was that? That reel that you were playing before we started was like,
it ain't like, my business.
No, the 30 something. It was like 30-year-olds don't know what they're doing. I'm like, bro, I just learned boundaries. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
No, it was like when you were younger and you thought the 30-year-olds in your life had it together.
Yeah. Or knew what they were doing.
Like think about when you were 18 and you knew people who were 30 and you were like, wow, they're adults.
Like, they're ancient. Yeah.
And we're just like, yeah, we don't know what the fuck we're doing.
Always thought they knew. And then we got old and realized
ain't nobody know nothing.
Living,
People who are damn 50 don't know. So.
And I always like feel back. I'm like, wow, the things that I put my mom through probably.
Right.
That I didn't need to.
That you didn't need to. But anyways.
She was just trying to make a better life for us all.
Right. Anyways, boundaries are a good thing, not a bad thing. Work your way. My other advice would be like, work your way up to it. Like, you don't have to tomorrow go set 50,000 boundaries. Yeah. You can set the one and practice it and then work your way up.
Or you can even like throw a hint at it, I feel.
Yes.
Or you think just go straight 0 to 100 and just
I'm a 0 to 100 type of person, but I think the working up to it would be like, okay, my boundary that I'm going to try to do immediately is going on sleep mode at night instead of keeping your notifications on. That's like an easy first step boundary you could do.
Yeah.
Sleep mode isn't necessarily off. Sleep mode gets turned off if somebody calls you like twice in a matter of like less than 5 minutes. It'll come through.
That.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
And if they're in your favorites, you can set the settings that if they're in their favorites, it comes through. So you can turn your phone on night mode, sleep mode. Yeah. Certain people will come through if they call you, not if they text you.
Yeah.
But if it's emergency, nobody's texting.
Yeah, they're calling.
So anyways, hope this was helpful.
Yeah, we're definitely, like, once we post this on Monday, well, the day that you're listening probably, make sure y'all hit us up in the comments and let us know about, I mean, we're going to ask the question, but let us know the boundaries that you set and how, I guess, did you grow up setting boundaries?
Yeah.
Is boundaries a new thing like it is to us? Yeah, like.
We want to know.
I definitely want to know.
We need all the help we can get. So,
like I said, she brought that up on the pod. It was like foreign language to us. We were like, boundaries? What are those?
I'm like, what are those? Yeah.
Especially growing up.
But they're real and they're not bad. They're put in place to help us be the best version of ourselves. So anyways, that's all we got. We will be back next week, right? Next week we're re-releasing the Master It podcast episode. We'll do a little blurb about it, but
with the homie Allie McG.
Allie McG, shout out to you. We are next week. Our episode is a re-release of an interview that we did on the Master It podcast with Allie McG. Go check out her podcast now so that when we release our episode, you know what to expect. But we had an amazing conversation, and we can't wait for you guys to hear it. So
I learned what drenchies. Is.
Excuse me? What did you learn? Drenchies?
Yeah. You know,
what's that?
I don't know. Y'all were talking about it on the pod. I was like, what is that?
Drenchies?
I was like, is that an Arizona like restaurant? And y'all were like, it's just the drunk munchies.
Oh.
Was it not drenchies? Was it something else? Do you not remember that?
I do, but I didn't understand what you were saying with your New Jersey accent. I didn't know.
Drenchies. Is that?
You're saying the U like an I.
Drenchies.
Drunk is the word. Drunk munchies.
Yeah, so how do you say it?
I don't know. Drunchies?
She was saying drenchies. I don't know.
No. I don't know what you're
Drenchy. That's why I was like, what the F is a drenchy? Is it a restaurant in Arizona or something? I'm like, how does Asia know this? And they were like, drunk munchies. And I'm like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard, but okay.
I did not know what you were saying. That's hilarious. I often have a hard time understanding what you're saying, but that's a story for another day. Anywho's, if you like this episode and this podcast, you know what to do. Leave us a review and press subscribe so you don't miss any episodes, and definitely tell a friend.
Yeah, follow us on Instagram, Done With Adulting Pod. Also on Twitter, Done WTH Adulting.
We won't talk to you guys next week. You'll hear from us, but we'll be back.
Set those boundaries.
Set the boundaries.
It's okay to say no. It's okay to live your life without other people interfering in it. So, yeah, do that.
Peace.